I want everyone to really look close on this shot. This is passion. Mike Robb is sweating like a madman right here. Look at what's going on right here. Mike Robb.
Why you gotta sweat like that?
You talk about my bills.
There we go.
Talk about my bills. I gotta get my fan up.
There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's a man with passion. We had to get the guy on the show, and he's not going to be here for a one-time only showing. Here with us for the 2022 regular season and a anticipated long playoff run is the man they call Real Mike Robb on Twitter. It is Mike Robinson joining us not only today, but every week for the regular season, for the playoff run, and hopefully the whole dang enchilada. And we're talking to him in mid-February after Valentine's Day when the Bills are hosting Lombardi. Mike, thanks for joining us. Welcome aboard the Bills train.
Man, thank you guys for having me. Bills Mafia, stand up. Let's get it, man. I cannot wait for this season, this championship season. I'm already calling it, guys. This is a championship season.
Yeah, this has been huge expectations all through the offseason. It started with the way the Chiefs game ended this last January where, you know, the Bills offense was clicking on all cylinders. They had a game of perfection the week before the Chiefs game, beating the New England Patriots. We've led to this point. Okay, so now we're like 80 hours away from the opener. What are your thoughts now? You walk into game one of the NFL season. You're a standalone Thursday night game against the defending champions. What's up with that?
Well, you know, guys, I was in training camp. I spent a couple of days in Rochester, went to training camp, got a chance to talk to all the guys out there with the team, with Buffalo. And these guys aren't scared. They're not backing down. I got a chance to talk to Josh off camera, Josh Allen, the quarterback, off camera. And this team is ready to go, and it reminds me of that bully of a team that I played for, the Seattle Seahawks, the 2013 Seattle Seahawks, which everybody know we were led by beast mode, obviously, the running game, myself in the fullback position, and the LOB, Legion of Boom, the defense, right? And when I was up there at training camp, I saw waves of pass rushers. I saw Von Miller putting on the pass rush summit 2.0, teaching all of the tricks of the trade. And to have a guy like Von Miller on this team, he's the finisher. He's the guy that if we had, I'm going to say we guys, excuse me. I know I didn't grow up a Buffalo Bills fan, but I just love the squad. When a guy like Von Miller on your team, if we would have had him in that divisional round game last year, I believe we would have came away with the win. I believe we would have moved on. I believe we would have won the Super Bowl. That team last year, the Buffalo Bills, reminds me of my 2012 Seattle Seahawks team. We lost to the Atlanta Falcons in the divisional round of the playoffs the year before. And we went on a mission throughout that offseason to prove to everyone that we belonged and to prove to everyone that we were the best team in the National Football League. When I was out there at training camp, it felt like that with the Buffalo Bills. It felt like they were the bullies of the National Football League. It felt like they were the best team in the NFL.
Yeah, and we heard a couple of the veteran players kind of talking about that to a certain extent, Mike, because media was asking them, you're going to have the pomp and circumstance with the banner raising Thursday night. The Rams are going to be, crowned again, the coronation, all of this stuff. How are you going to handle that and still get ready for a football game? And a couple of vets, including Diggs, were saying, I'm using that as motivation because I want that to be us next year. I thought it was an interesting take because there is some compartmentalizing you got to do there to kind of stay focused on the game and not get lost in the pomp and circumstance, even if it's about the opponent and not you. So it almost kind of reminds me of how laser focused these guys seem to be, and nothing's going to get them off their track this year.
Absolutely. And then you just gotta put it in perspective. That was last year's Super Bowl champion. To me, it feeds the hunger. And that's one of the questions I still have with the Los Angeles Rams. Are they still hungry? Guys, I swear, I don't think I've seen Aaron Donald talk as much as I saw him talk after they won the Super Bowl. And I believe Von Miller had a lot to do with that. I believe Von Miller brought that leadership style out of Aaron Donald. But my question is, are they still hungry? Matthew Stafford hadn't won nothing his whole life until last year. Is he still hungry? Aaron Donald, as he was winning the Super Bowl, he's talking about ring me, ring me, ring me. Is he still hungry? He has a ring. They're going to be putting up the banner. They're fat now. They're fed. Buffalo Bills, they're not fed. They're still hungry. Again, I was up there at training camp when Josh kind of got into that physical altercation with, I forget the defensive
Jordan
tackle's
Phillips.
name, but Jordan Phillips, yeah, man. But that's the fire. That's what's needed to go into the championship season. Guys, I think they're going to beat the hell out of the Rams. I don't think it's going to be close.
Well, maybe, and certainly you don't know how the Rams are going to show up. But you know this too, and I saw it as well. One of the reasons the teams I was on in the '90s went to 4 straight because they never got fed. I mean, we're still hungry. You were part of that Seattle team who had won it and then got back again, and you know how hard it is. Tell me about what it takes to rebound after you win it to come back hungry enough to get there again.
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's a different perspective, right? You're hungry when you're building up to get there. And then once you get there, you know, it's kind of like human nature to kind of relax a little bit. And then the next year, you're the hunted. People can talk about the Bills didn't go to the Super Bowl. They lost in that divisional round last year. But at the end of the day, people that do the job that we do, especially in the national media, we got eyes. We can see Buffalo Bills are the most talented team in the NFL. To me, the expectation this year is that they go all the way. The expectation, it should be in their locker room. The expectation is that, yeah, we're going to be playing in February. They got to know it. And that's part of kind of what happens to great teams. You got to start that mental process of knowing it. And then once you know that you're supposed to be playing in February, then you're equipped mentally to take on everybody's best version of themselves every single week. And that's really what this team, this Buffalo Bills team, has to do. They have to get ready for 17 weeks of the opponent's best football. Because again, a lot of times, especially when you talk about teams like the Jets, I don't mean to disrespect the Jets, but teams like the Jets that's in the AFC East, that's going to be the Super Bowl. Playing the Buffalo Bills is going to be their Super Bowl. Josh Allen and all the leaders on that team, they have to match the intensity.
Yeah, and I think we have to do our listening audience a service here, Mike, because for those that may not be familiar with Mike Robinson's work on NFL Network, this guy isn't jumping on the Bills bandwagon this year. He's been ringing this bell for about 4 years now. He was kind of on this thing on the come-up before it got to the monster that it is now here in Buffalo with Josh Allen and company. And we've already talked about the passion that Mike shows for this football team. This is how passionate Mike can be. Can we roll this clip we got? Because Mike's even partaken in the table smashing exercise that most of you Bills Mafia members have. He did this at training camp. Walk us through this, Mike.
Yeah. So, guys, as you can see, I didn't mean to land on my feet on the table. Usually the tables are a little bit broken already. But that table was not broken already. And no, I was not sauced up. I had no drinks, no alcoholic beverages. So I was very sober. It was very early in the day. But you know what? When I see all the Buffalo Bills fans and the sacrifices they make to go to games, the sacrifices they make in weather and all of those things to support the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen, who I think is QB1 in the National Football League. He's the best quarterback in the league. I don't care who you ask, okay? When I see our fans doing that, hey, man, at the end of the day, I felt it was my duty to jump off the bleachers and jump on the table. Now, I will say this. I got a call from Beast Mode. He cursed me completely out. Bah! Dude, what the hell is wrong with you, man? What are you doing, man? Don't break your back, man. People drink before they do that, man. You were sober. Now, that's a friend coming to a friend's defense, but at the end of the day, he was happy. I made the fan base happy.
Yeah, no question about it. It's kind of a rite of passage now. It's become kind of the thing to do. And Josh has said if they win it, he'll go through one that's on fire. You know, it's one of those things, right? Guys will do anything, right, once it's done. Coming up on the Bills have their first 6 games. A bunch of playoff teams, the Rams, the Titans, the Steelers, the Chiefs, the Packers, a lot of teams that were in the playoffs last year. They got the bye week at week 7, then they come back with the Packers. It's their 7th game of the year. How important is it? And the Bills have done a nice job, and they've been 4-1 4 out of the last 5 seasons with Sean McDermott coming out of the first month of the season. How important is it? Because there's still a lot of football to be played, no question. But, getting off to a fast start, how much does that carry you throughout the regular season?
I think it's one of those things that, look, every team in the NFL, and I know I know some players aren't going to like this, but look, teams don't figure out who they are until after the first month of the season. We just don't hit enough at practice. We don't hit enough in training camp anymore. That's just the way it is, right? And at the end of the day, the championship teams, they look back into the season and they say, oh man, the first half of the season, we may not have knew who we were exactly. We may not have had our identity yet, but our best players showed up. Our Josh Allens, our Stephon Diggs, our Von Millers, our guys showed up, and we did enough to win the games. Teams that have the losers lament at the end of the season, which the woulda, coulda, shouldas, they're the ones who say, man, if we would have just did this in week 2, if we would have just did that, we would have had that game and we would have been a game closer and we would have got into the playoffs. I think when you look at the talent of this roster and Brandon Beane, I got to give a shout out to Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott. First of all, I've known players that's played in Sean McDermott's defense when he was in Philly, and that's part of why I love this team since 2018 is because I love Sean McDermott. I like his mentality. I like his approach to football. You see what I'm saying? And then Brandon Beane, the way he builds the team. I mean, you look at this roster. I mean, there isn't a better roster in football. It just isn't. So at the end of the day, when I just look at just how this team is constructed, its best players are so good that I think early on in the season that the talent will just take over. And then again, once this team finds itself, which I think you have the addition of James Cook, that rookie out of Georgia, getting that run game to pair up with Devin Singletary, in the backfield with Zach Moss to be able to slow games down when they need to. To me, that's the missing element. A sharpshooter like Von Miller on defense, and then being able to slow the game down when you need to and go into 4-minute offense. To me, that's what's going to win games early, and I think the team has the personnel to do it.
So, Mike, in your time at training camp, it might have just been like a snapshot, but anybody that came to training camp could probably see this pretty plainly. Just about everybody in this draft class flashed, and this is a deep roster of talented players. And, I mean, I know you already tipped your hat to being here, but you look at this draft class almost from top to bottom, every one of them flashed at one point or another in a training camp that's loaded on a roster. So you mentioned Cook. We know Kaiir Elam and Christian Benford may both play. They may platoon at that one corner spot on Thursday night, according to Coach Leslie Frazier on the defensive side of the ball. And then, you have Khalil Shakir, who's going to be their primary punt returner, it looks like, and will probably factor in at some point on offense. How surprising is it that rookies on a roster this talented could very well be making significant contributions by midseason, if not sooner?
I mean, look, that's the name of the game. That's why you have the architect and Brandon Beane. That's why Sean McDermott and his coaches do such a great job, of developing, right? I think, when you went into this training camp, there probably only really was 2 or 3 positions that may have been up for grabs because, again, this roster was so deep. This roster is so talented. But at the end of the day, to me, this team has a lot of depth. And to me, this draft added to that depth. And to me, that depth is really what gets you over the hump. When we won our Super Bowl, it wasn't that we just had 2 or 3 pass rushers. We had 6 or 7. It's the guys that come off the bench. It's the guys that when Von Miller gets tired, it's the Boogie Bashams. It's the other guys that can come in, and will the level drop off? You see what I'm saying? And I think the development of the young guys so far, you can see that the level won't drop off much when the starters go out.
We've had this come to our attention as well in this day and age. The Bills get Josh Allen. He's polarizing. People love him. People hate him. Mm-hmm. And he's proven to be a guy that, you should love because he's that good. But he's also indicative of what it takes to play in the NFL. Brownie and I were having this conversation early in the show. 9 games this opening weekend have quarterbacks for each team who were drafted in the first round. Josh Allen, Matt Stafford on Thursday night, Jameis Winston in New Orleans and Marcus Mariota, Trey Lance against Justin Fields, either Mitch Trubisky or Pickett for Pittsburgh against Joe Burrow. Both those guys for Pittsburgh are in the first round. Mac Jones and Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence versus Carson Wentz, Daniel Jones versus Ryan Tannehill, Pat Mahomes versus Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson versus either Joe Flacco or Zach Wilson if he can take snaps. All of those guys drafted in the first round, 9 games. I mean, it takes something special to be a quarterback, but all these guys are different. I mean, they got some things in common, obviously, but there's a whole spectrum of abilities there. But first round is first round. Why is it, do you think, that is the case? Certainly the guys who are absent, Russ Wilson, 3rd rounder, Tom Brady, 6th rounder, the guys like that, that's about it. That's about it. So what are your thoughts on these teams and how important the quarterback position is and what these teams do who don't have one?
Well, I think it's indicative of just how important the position is. The fact that you have that many first-round matchups in just a weekend, you know what I mean? And it looks like the first round is turning into, great quarterbacks, great offensive tackles, or a pass rusher or corner. Like, it's turning into, first round is you only go after certain positions, certain guys. But I also think it's indicative of how much our scouts in the National Football League have messed up. I think it's also indicative of just the change in the CBA, where we used to pay quarterbacks and first round picks so much money up at first, and now you can draft a guy. It's kind of slotted. You kind of know what he's going to make. You get that 5th-year option, and so because you get that 5th-year option, and the quarterback is such an important position, it's almost like I think teams are almost forced into trying to reach for a quarterback in the first round. So that's why the business sometimes starts to shape team building dynamics, and I think that's why you see so many first-round quarterback matchups in this weekend's games.
You already mentioned Von Miller, and he obviously had an impact on the Rams Super Bowl run last year. Now he is here, and Coach McDermott was already talking about this, Mike, about how his impact was even greater than his expectations were because it goes beyond just his own play on the field. He's been an instrumental mentor to Greg Rousseau, Boogie Basham, A.J. Epinesa, those kinds of guys. And, he's voted a team captain. I mean, he just got here. I understand he comes in with a lot of cachet, but it seems like there is going to be a Von Miller ripple effect with this defensive front that's going to go way beyond his own exploits on the field. Do you have a teammate in your history that you remember that had a similar effect? I mean, I don't know why I'm channeling Richard Sherman a little bit and maybe the impact he had on the other corners on that Seahawks roster. Can you just kind of explain how that ripple effect works with players of this stature?
Well, again, first of all, Von Miller comes with street credibility. Okay, so you already know walking into a defensive room, when Von Miller walks in there, he comes with a level of expertise. He comes with a level of experience. He comes with a level of focus, because look how successful he's been in the National Football League. Look how much money he's made. So you don't make that much money without having a level of talent, a level of work ethic, and all of those things. But Von is also a glue guy. Okay, Von is a guy that I have a lot of respect for. I've played against Von a lot in the past, and I would consider Von a really good associate because he always lends an ear. He's always there to listen. He's always there to give real advice. And he's even told me if he was playing in that Super Bowl that we beat Denver, that it was no way that we would have got a ring. So me and him kind of go back and forth about that. But he was a glue guy. I was a glue guy in my locker room. And I'll say this. Von, when I talk to guys that were in the locker room with Von, not just in Los Angeles, but especially in Denver, right? That's why it was hard to get him out of Denver, because he meant more to the team other than just the plays he was making on the field. I life coach a lot of guys, a lot of young guys in the National Football League right now, and I always tell them, make them really think about cutting you. Okay, if they have to make a business decision about letting you go out of the locker room, make it very hard for them to let you go, and not just for your physical abilities. And a guy like Von Miller, when you decide to either bring him into your locker room or take him out of your locker room, you have to think about the effect of it on everybody in the locker room. Like for me, if I was the Rams, it'd been very difficult for me to let Von Miller walk out that locker room, seeing the effect he had, in my opinion, on the best player in the National Football League, in Aaron Donald. The fact that Von Miller had that type of effect on Aaron Donald would have forced me to pay whatever Von Miller won it. And it's especially Von Miller's a good player as well. But what I mean by glue guy also is on Tuesdays or Monday nights when you know you have a day off on Tuesdays, Von was the guy to have all the guys at his house. Von is the guy to make things fun. Von is the guy during training camp to have what we call false enthusiasm, you know what I mean, to make it a little bit more lighthearted, to make guys want to be at practice. So you always have to have glue guys, and every championship team, no matter what level I've been a part of, and no matter what level I've seen, every championship team has guys like a Michael Robinson or Von Miller. So to me, it's the ability to be able to bring all of his teammates together and get all of their ears all at once.
So just to wrap this one up, Mike, because we heard you mention it at the top, you feel good about this one for the Bills.
Absolutely, I do. And
Okay.
I know it's Monday or Tuesday. Well, I think it's Monday. I don't know.
It's Monday.
Okay, it's Monday. I know it's Monday. But this is not going to change. This prediction is not going to change. Do y'all want to score and all of that too?
If you got it, yeah, you don't have to come up with one, but
yeah, whatever you're
I
comfortable
can give you a
with.
little bit of a score. All right, look, I think the Bills win this game 36-23. I don't think it's going to be that close, guys.
wow. All right. Well, I hope you're right. I know that.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing it here in week 1, Mike. We'll catch up with you in week 2. Look forward to having you this season.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, guys. Look forward to it.